All right, let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Here.
Gustafson,
Here.
Perry,
Here.
J.R. Smith,
Here.
Brabner, Mayor.
I am here. Our invocation and pledge will be led by Councilmember Shane Perry. If you please rise.
Father, I want to thank you for another great day here in Spanish Fort. Thank you for all the law enforcement and fire that serve our city and do such a great job for us, Father. Thank you for the opportunity just to serve our citizens and just be here and be for them and stand in the gap and just do what we think is best for our community and our city and our citizens. I pray for all those that are sick tonight. You lift them up, Father, and just be with everybody and pray that they have a great week. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. I ask for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, the work session January 3rd, 2022, the regular meeting January 3rd, 2022. Are there any corrections? If not, I stand approved as written. Reports of committees and officers. Ms. Gaines?
No report, sir.
Mr. Connor?
No further reports, Mayor.
Chief Barber? Chief Hugh? Mr. Patterson?
Just one report, Mayor. At our last Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission did review the sign ordinance, which you have on your agenda, and sends a positive recommendation to the City Council for its adoption.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time for public participation. If you'd like to come address the council, please come forward. Push the speak button, give us your name and address. The floor is open.
Hello, Ryan Shirley. My address is 31972 Badger Court. Thank you all on the council for what you do for our community. Welcome, Mary. It's good to see you. You've probably been back for a little while, I guess, but it's good to see you anyway. Hadn't seen you in a while. Just wanted to address something that's been on my mind and heart for a long time. It's definitely come up here today, as everybody knows. We lost our head football coach here in Spanish Fort. One of the reasons that we lost him, in my opinion, has been just a lack of overall commitment from the city to continue to improve facilities that are so desperately needed in this city. We've lost other coaches in recent years for some of these same reasons. These needs are from our youth programs all the way through the high school. Yes, a lot of what has been done over these years have been done by this city and this city council as well, and that is much appreciated. But there is definitely no reason nor excuse for us not to continue putting money towards the needs of this rapidly growing city. We're at a crossroads, and it's now. We're competing against all the other programs here in our area and in the state that are blowing our facilities out of the water. I do not understand why anyone does not want to support the sports, and that is one of the main things that will bring unity and galvanize any city. With kids having everything at their fingertips these days, things like sports will keep them occupied, part of a team, and responsible for something important. If we as a city do not step up now and begin upgrading facilities in this city and supporting the athletics in a much larger way than we're currently doing, Spanish Fort is going to be losing in, and we will begin to see a decline in our schools and the community overall. Some of our youth numbers, like baseball, are already declining. Other cities that are building these great facilities are experiencing an increase. We have grown so much over the last 5 to 10 years to continue the status quo and try to only do one project at a time. Spanish Fort is continuing to grow with a younger demographic that wants to have top-notch schools, which we have, academics, which we have, and athletics, which we have always had. Families are moving here all the time, like I did, because of the schools. but then get involved and to begin to complain about the lack of facilities once they begin to get involved with those sports. The 3 meal tax that was passed was an outstanding accomplishment for this city. And it is taking care of all the academic sides of things right now. But it is time for us to also put our focus and take care of the athletic side of things. I would like to ask each of you to get out and go to as many youth games as well as high school athletic events as you possibly can and talk to the parents. Because I hear it all the time at the events that I'm at, and I'm not at very many. My kids are just starting to get started in things. Ask them how they feel about what is going on and what they feel needs to be addressed, and you will see a common thread and start to understand the importance of this and how urgent it is. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate those comments. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd love to ask gentleman a question. Can you tell me what percentage, what would be appropriate for us to spend? Because we do, I mean, we're spending over $1 million right now on a girls' field house. We do budget quite a bit already. We don't have Gulf Shores budget or Fairhope's budget, but can you give me some ideas of, and maybe even after the meeting privately if you want to, that's fine, but I'm not sure what more we could do unless it's asked of us. And so, we need specifics. I know the coach came to us with a fairly large proposition once before, which would have been a huge part of our budget. I'm looking at these gentlemen here. We spend a lot on the absolute necessities right now, and that would absolutely include fire and police. So I'd love specifics on what we need to spend on. And even as a, just as a general idea from you, what would be appropriate percentage of our budget to spend on sports, that sort of thing. So again, if you don't want to come up, that's fine, but if you want to talk to me after, that'd be fine too, however you want to do it.
Hey, thank you, and I'm willing to stay and talk afterwards to anyone as well. In terms of a percentage, that's one of the things that, I haven't been involved enough with the city council. I would push that back to you guys to look around and see what other ones are doing. It's hard to compare to a city school system like a Saraland or even a Gulf Shores. But the thing is that's who we compete with as well. Enterprise is a school system, but the things you're starting to see is what we are going to have to. So a percentage answer I can't give to you. The thing, though, is that y'all are going to have to figure out is how can we budget for that stuff. I know it's always, I love the fiscal responsibility that we've had. I've seen the budget. That is a great thing that we've had over the years and be able to do that stuff over the course of the years that we've had. But I think that also the challenge comes in is how can you as a city council figure out long-term plans on ways to finance things or whatever that's not going to put us in any type of burden long-term, because you can do that. You can commit smaller amounts of money. I was highly involved with that project that we brought and proposed last year. And we talked about doing it in stages, or we could do it all at once as a lump sum, whatever we could do, and there's private participation that is already behind it in some sense of the manner to try to bring private funds, but then also trying to do whatever kind of partnerships we can with the city of Spanish Fort, with the Baldwin Board of Education. All of those things have to be having conversations about, and they like now, to figure out how can we do this. We can't just, be building the girls' field house, which is phenomenal. That's another kudos. That's a great thing because it was desperately needed. But just like the field house project that we started talking about, right now the field house that's up there is suited for basically like a 3A, maybe a small 4A. Well, we're a high 6A. Kids are on top of each other. The weight room is not suitable for what's in there. It's not safe or anything like that. And then the other things that were attached to that were improvements that were needed when you were talking about the pavilions and things of that nature for all sports that were going to be able to utilize that. The tracks and all of those things that are starting to become kind of, I wouldn't say dilapidated, but they're getting there. If you've been up there and looked at it right now, the storage facilities, all of those things that, we're kind of in a land crisis up there. Of course, you can only go so far with things, but the problem is a lot of what was built from my understanding, when it was built up there, a lot by the city. But that's been a long time ago. So now those things have to continually be upgraded and money spent to do that.
I will say this, all of that was built by the city, not a
Yeah.
lot. Every bit, every dime was spent by the city.
It's
No
nice.
help from Baldwin County School Board, no help from anything else. We had some parents that built a couple of things up there, a little track shack, those kind of things, but it has been 100% city funded. The city has always stood behind that. We got more to do. We know we need to do more, and I think this council recognizes it. Your timing last year on the proposal you brought for us for $2.5 million couldn't come at a worse time, because we had some major upgrades we need to do at PD. We had the $1 million field house going. We got a $12 million budget, so we got to slice that pie as thin as we can to take care of all. I think you will see in this budget cycle, at least I'm gonna recommend to the council during our next budget cycle, some things to address what's needed up there. You know, you have people in our city that are gonna say, no, we don't need to spend any more on athletics. I, like you, do believe in athletics. I believe in taking care of the youth. Let's keep them busy. Let's give them what they need to make things happen. So I think you'll see some things in the next budget cycle, right?
I would like to reiterate, yes, it was a while back when we first got started and built all the athletic facilities, but we didn't stop at that point. We've helped pay for improving and upgrading the existing weight room and stuff. We've bought all new equipment for the whole track team. The pole vault mats, everything was just purchased 4 years ago, maybe. I personally have gone and spoken to school officials about things not being maintained in the proper fashion once the city has purchased them and are left up there at the discretion of who's in charge of the school. Sometimes it gets listened to, sometimes it doesn't. But the city can't just keep throwing money at things if they don't end up having half the life expectancy they should have. And as far as parents' involvement, I've been involved in everything from building T-ball batting cages, wiring scoreboards, fixing scoreboards right up the line. I've been a track, flagpoles. I've been a track and cross-country booster club president. I've been a girls' basketball. I've gotten involved in all of it, and then decided I would step up to this level. And every year, we make sure that we put money not just towards academics, but for athletics, and not just at the high school, but also at all the youth parks, be it for tennis, soccer, t-ball, baseball, youth football, or whatever.
And I would say too, I hope this doesn't come off as very defensive and antagonistic at all. I love sports too, I really do. And I do say timing is going to be key. You know, get whatever specific proposals. Let's revisit that again, like the mayor said, right before our next budgeting cycle. Which I guess, you know, if you think about it in the spring, that'd probably be a really good time to get some specifics so we can get some numbers. But yeah, just we do try to live within our means, and that's something I'm really proud of. And so we just have to keep that in mind. I'm averse to financing. It's just my nature. And but I get what you're saying too. This might be the best time to borrow the money to do something bigger. So yeah, I'd love to see some more specifics. And I'm sorry I didn't remember that you were part of the team that came before, that the big deal on the hill. Is that what Coach called it? So, yeah.
Well, one thing that I can attest to, my assistant, her son plays in a lot of these, and she will tell me that, yeah, they are jammed in there like sardines. I mean, in that field house, they are jammed in. And even she questions how safe they are. So I understand the need. The other thing I would recognize too is that when we built these things, this was, look at the growth that we had from 2010 to 2020 in this latest census. When we grew this, I don't think anybody could have anticipated that we would see the growth. In my business, I see them moving in all the time, and let me tell you, it is not slowing down. So it's one of those things that I can see where Ryan's talking about that. I've heard about it as well, and I've seen some pictures of it as well. I do see exactly what you're talking about. But again, we have to consider too, what we put in there, it was before my time, but we put it in when the population had not grown. But it is gonna grow. There is no question it's coming. I talk to people every day that are moving into this area, and it is not gonna slow down anytime soon. It's only going to get worse.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you coming. Appreciate you sharing your views. Anyone else?
I just want us to remember that less than 50% of the student body in our in the high school live within the city limits of Spanish Fort. So we've got to protect the money that we have, the money we may borrow to do this, with servicing students that are not in our city limits. So we're using city money to help people outside of our city. I'm all for the kids. Played sports all through high school. Husband did, kids did. I'm all for it. I don't have a problem with that. It's figuring out how to pay for it and have it be equitable for everybody. If y'all remember, the school tax failed on this side of town, but from 181 East, that's where we won that election. That's where we won that referendum. So that's where our growth is, and not all of that's within the city limits of Spanish Fort. So we gotta hedge that between those two different things. So
I think they've
any
got a good
suggestion you
plan.
have is gratefully appreciated.
Realistically, I think if we get, some participation from local businesses, things like that, we can offset some of that. So there's got to be a magic number in there, or a way, or a solution to this particular problem.
Anyone else? Thank you, Ryan. All right, moving on to announcements. The work session for the Monday, February 7th meeting will begin at 4 p.m. here at the Community Center. We have no old business. On the new business, we have a promotion ceremony for Officer George Kafanis from corporal to sergeant.
So these are always very joyous times. This is the second time I've been able to do a promotion since I've been here. And actually, this is actually going to be a first and a last time. So George was less than 1 year ago promoted from officer to corporal. And then today, we're going to be promoting him from corporal to sergeant. So it's kind of an anomaly we had when I got here. First of all, we didn't have corporals. And so luckily, we were able to get that instituted. Something great for the growth and development of our officers. And so George made corporal last February. And so the way it was set up, officers were eligible to take the sergeant's test. And so he took both tests. And so he made corporal the first round last year. And here we are. He's going to make sergeant off the same testing process that we went through last year. So again, a first and a last, because going forward, only corporals will be eligible for sergeant. So a very special night for George. I'm glad to see your families here. Your peers are here, George. You're a 17-year veteran of law enforcement. He is a true and tried leader. Even before he became a corporal, as a senior officer, he was running squads. As a corporal in this last year, he's performed well, stepping up to that rank, looking out for the officers that are under his command. And now, as a sergeant, he will get his own squad. He'll have the opportunity to teach, but also the main purpose of you being there, George, are for your officers. So always remember, you exist because you have to look out for their will, and you have to ensure that you're looking out for the community as well. Something I think I said before, when you get to a scene, somebody like me, even though I might have these little birds on my collar and you got these lieutenants there with the little bars, it's always the sergeant that somebody goes running up to and asks a question or wants to know what's going on because of the stripes. They're the most ornate part of the uniform. His stripes stand out a lot more than what my collar brass might be or what the lieutenant's brass might look like. So understand that everybody's looking to you. Your officers are looking to you. The community's looking to you to make those right decisions for their will. As you know, my thought process here is that we're working on leadership development. We went through a great class about a month ago. All of the leadership team from Spanish Fort PD was in the same room at the same time getting this training. And it's something that we all have to keep pressing ourselves as we grow as a city, which means our department's going to grow. And with that growth, we have to be prepared for that. And so a lot of the things you have seen me come forward to you about with the budget, but also really for the officers, is in preparation for that growth that's going to occur. We know that's happening, and so I think we're laying a great foundation for the future of the city and this department. And tonight, we're doing just another piece of it. We have a very well-respected officer here that's now going to be a sergeant, evident by the family that supported him the last 17 years, his peers that are here to support him, and just understand I'm behind you from here on out, always have been. So George, if you'll stand up. Mayor, if you'll come behind me, sir. Come over here, George. So he is still actually wearing his officer badge from last year, supply chain issues. So in a whole year, we couldn't even get a corporal's badge to give him his appropriate badge. So he's actually making the jump without ever having his corporal's badge. But I do have an appropriate sergeant's badge for him. Congratulations.
I have the privilege to give him the sergeant bars for his collars. You know, it's certainly a pleasure. George has been with us for 15 years, served as an SRO at the elementary school, did an outstanding job. Congratulations, son.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
You want to introduce your family?
Yeah, this is my daughter Alyssa, my son George, my mother, sister, and brother.
Good to have you here. You've done a great job raising this young man. I know the kids need to be proud of him too, because he's a good man. He's done a great job for our city. Thank you, George.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, have those pictures sent to me, please, tomorrow. Get those pictures sent to me, please, tomorrow.
Okay, moving on the agenda, we have a public hearing on ordinance number 598, 2021. An ordinance adopting standards and regulations regarding the placement, construction, and maintenance of signs within the city of Spanish Fort. David?
Mayor, this ordinance adopts standards and regulations regarding the placement, construction, and maintenance of signs within the city of Spanish Fort. This is a new ordinance that will replace the existing sign ordinance. To kind of give an overview of the ordinance, the first section of the ordinance contains general provisions which outlines the purpose, findings, and intent and interpretation of the ordinance. Generally, that the purpose of the ordinance is to regulate the placement, construction, and maintenance of signs so as to limit obstructions, distractions to motorists, and negative impacts on properties and property values, while at the same time allowing for people to exercise their rights of First Amendment speech for advertising of their businesses and other activities. Section 1 contains the definition section of the ordinance, which includes all the definitions of the terms that you see in the ordinance and throughout the body of the ordinance. Section 2 states that prohibited signs are all signs in all districts except those that are constructed in accordance with a validly issued building permit and in accordance with the terms of this ordinance. So any sign that is not in compliance with this ordinance is prohibited. Section 3 contains the authorized signs. The first section are government signs, traffic control signs, and other notice signs that are required to be placed based on orders of the court, state, or local governments, and also includes the right for federal, state, and local property owners to file flags and flag poles. Section 3.2 contains a section regarding temporary signs that allows property owners to place one temporary sign on their property not larger than 6 square feet and one window sign not larger than 8.5 by 11. No commercial, business, or outdoor advertising signs are allowed in residential districts. Furthermore, it allows temporary signs to be placed on property 90 days prior to an election, when an election involves candidates or issues that affect the district. Those signs cannot be larger than 6 square feet. It also allows for those types of signs in commercial districts. In addition, it allows for signs to be placed on property when property is being offered for sale, subject to certain conditions, either by a licensed real estate agent or the property owner themselves, and limits the size and type of sign that is allowed to be located on the property. Section 3.4 does allow for flag poles and flags in residential districts. You can have one flag pole and one flag. Two flags. In commercial districts, you're allowed to have one flag pole for every 25 feet of frontage for a maximum of 3 flags and 3 flag poles. Section 4 sets forth a permit application process and requires for an application to be submitted before signs are constructed. Gives the zoning official or building and zoning officer a period of 20 days with which to review and to either accept or reject the permit. If it is not approved or denied within that 20 days, it's deemed denied, and there is a appeals procedure to the Board of Adjustment to allow for review of any decisions made by the building official as it relates to signed permit applications. Section 5 sets forth specific sign regulations by district. The first section deals with residential districts and states that one sign is allowed on the property for each dwelling, as we talked about earlier. It also sets forth the standards for identification signage for subdivisions depending on the size and number of acres contained within the proposed residential development. No signs are allowed to be placed within any required side yards or within 10 feet of the street right-of-way. It also limits that the height should not be any higher than 4 feet above the ground, depending on the location of the sign. In commercial districts, you're allowed to have a sign face that does not exceed 60 square feet in area, and the council has agreed, or has at least discussing, and this ordinance provides for doing away with the 16-foot height limitation and going to ground signs. Presently, you're allowed to have a 16-foot tall sign with a 100 square foot sign face. This would move to ground signs not to exceed 8 feet in height. It also provides for wall signs, marquee signs, and additional signage that was not allowed before that would be allowed would be sandwich board signs in in the commercial districts on private sidewalks in front of a business not to exceed 6 square feet as long as it meets ADA requirements for pedestrian passage. In addition, there were requests from property owners and business owners to allow for grand opening of businesses or going out of business signage, and so this would allow for a banner not to exceed 30 days in relation to a grand opening or going out of business sale or notice. Feather signs and sale signs are prohibited, with exception of allowed for the grand opening of a business depending on the amount of street frontage that one has. Height, ground-mounted signs shall not exceed 8 feet from ground level. It also provides for illumination and under what circumstances lights can either be externally illuminated or internally illuminated. In industrial districts, we have very similar sign requirements as it relates to commercial districts, and also allows for identification of industrial developments based on the size and acreage of the development, similar to what you would see for residential subdivisions. Section 6 contains supplemental criteria that applies in all districts. Section 6.1 references when and how temporary signs are to be located and removed. Section 6.2 states that bench signs are prohibited in all districts. Section 6.3 states that outdoor advertising or off-premise signs are prohibited except as allowed in certain overlay districts that will be referenced later. Integral signs, which are allowed to provide access and orientation, are allowed under certain circumstances, as well as private traffic direction signs in accordance with the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Section 6.7 sets forth the terms and conditions upon which exterior illumination, interior illumination of signs are allowed. Section 7 lists prohibited signs as well. Signs that allow for movement, coloring, or any type of movement are prohibited. Banners, balloons, posters, pennants, ribbons, anything that would move or shake are prohibited. Signs having blinking, flashing, or fluttering lights are prohibited. Roof signs are prohibited. In addition, portable signs that do not comply with the requirements of the ordinance are prohibited. Mobile, digital, or electronic truck signs are prohibited, and then the flopping man movable signs or anything that moves in the wind or by mechanical means that could be a distraction are prohibited. Section 8 sets forth the sign criteria for certain overlay districts. Section 8.1 is in reference to Exhibit A that has a map showing Zone 1, which is the area to the westernmost corporate limits of the city, in the area where you have R&R and Felix's Fish Camp. Zone 2 is the middle part of the causeway, where you have Ed's Seafood Shed, the original Oyster House, those types of businesses. Zone 3 overlay district is the Eastern Shore Center, which has always had its own sign criteria, which was adopted originally at the request of the developers of that facility. Zone 4 is the overlay district around the Spanish Fort Town Center, which when it came in, also asked to have special signage that would allow for the national type tenants that a retail development that center has. So they were also granted the same or similar requirements or conditions for signage at the Eastern Shore Center. In addition, Zones 1 and 2 have supplemental criteria that address outdoor advertising signs under certain conditions based on the relation of the property to Interstate 10. And then we also have included supplemental criteria for Zones 3 and 4 in Exhibit B. I said that incorrectly. Exhibit B is the criteria for Zones 3. 1 and 2 are the supplemental criteria set forth in Exhibit 5. And the City Council has had numerous property owners request digital billboards or digital signage to be allowed under certain circumstances. The City Council has discussed kind of doing a test area along the causeway or putting your toe in the water to see if it works, using the causeway as an opportunity to see. And so these provisions would allow those property owners who have larger signage than we have in other parts of the city to have up to 60 square feet of digital board that can only be changed, I think it's 4 times in a 24-hour period, the purpose of which is to allow for people on the restaurants in particular to advertise for specials and other events at their facility. Section 9 states what happens or the requirements for non-conforming signs, removal of signs that are in violation of the ordinance, and then 10, 11, and 12 are severability clause, repealer clause, and effective date. And that's a basic overview of the ordinance, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? I will say this document has been alive and well in this city for a number of years. I say alive, the old document was alive. This one's been transforming for the last, 3 years, if not more. So I'm glad to have what we consider a finished project, moving this forward. I think it's a great addition to get these things. Things have changed from the original sign ordinance, which was probably adopted when?
97, 98, 96,
yeah,
somewhere along in there.
A lot of things
I'm
have
sorry.
changed.
I know exactly when it is, 1994.
1994?
1994.
Okay. So it needed some change, it needed some tweaking, and we've got to where we need to do it. We will have a public hearing, so Ryan, you can speak if you like. We'll have a public hearing. I ask if anyone would like to speak, please give their name and address. Public hearing is now, before we do that, do you have any comments from the council? I sort of skipped over that part. No? Yeah, we've talked this one to us sort of dead. Public hearing is now open. Public hearing is now closed. Any further discussion from the council? Do I have a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 598-2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Absolutely,
Perry.
yes.
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you all for all of the hours you put into this. I can't even begin to add up all the hours that have been put into this one little ordinance that is so impactful to our community. So thank you all for that. Moving on to ordinance number 599, 2022, an ordinance amending ordinance number 541, 2019, which adopted various standard codes by reference and provided for certain fees and penalties for violations of said codes. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, the ordinance number 541, 2019 basically adopts the standard codes by reference, such as the residential building code, fire codes, et cetera, for the city of Spanish Fort. It also outlines and sets forth permit, plan review, and other fees associated with actions or applications that are filed for review and approval by the building department. This ordinance only amends Section 3 and those fees. You have to set out, according to state law, sections in their entirety. So Section A is the only section that's being amended of Section 3, and it is adding permit fees for manufactured homes, mobile homes, and recreational vehicle parks to provide for electrical, plumbing, moving, setup, inspection fees for the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? I'd like to announce that we have a public hearing for ordinance number 599, 2022, Monday, February 7th, to hear any comments in opposition to or in favor of the proposed ordinance. I'd like to present Resolution 1195, 2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an intergovernmental service agreement with the Baldwin County Commission for assistance with funding for a transportation alternative program project for the construction of multi-use sidewalk improvements along Jimmy Faulkner Drive from Dunlin Avenue to Spanish Fort Middle School. And I'm going to say this right here. I have read this one paragraph at least 7 or 8 times, and I would love to see a resolution next time a little bit shortened, okay? Mr. Connor does have the conflict. I think the council is very aware of what this project is. It's sidewalks from Dunlin Avenue all the way up to the middle school. Another addition to the city, the growth, things going on. It's a great opportunity. We received a grant to do this. After we received the grant, we really got to a point where we were able to reach out to the county, because part of this is in the county, and ask for their participation in this particular project monetarily, and they did very graciously make a motion and move forward on their plates to a $93,000 contribution to this. We, the city, will maintain the sidewalks in the county section. By that, we will cut it and maintain it and those kind of things. We will repair it as things are needed. The county will continue to do their mowing programs in those parts of the areas, because we contract with them separately. They have the equipment to cut up and down Jimmy Faulkner that we don't have. So I think that's the basic. There is one other item within the resolution that you need to look at, and that is on page 3 under the recitals. You'll find term is number 8. This agreement shows 12 months. I'd like to see that, and I think the county has indicated that they're willing to do this, so we'll recommend to them 36 months. We can't get this project done in 12 months. If we approve this at 12 months, we'll be coming back asking for an extension. So that's the only changes I see. Any discussion from the council on this item?
Didn't we say that this project doesn't even start until we get more towards 3rd or 4th quarter, correct?
This project is not in the budget for this year. Yeah. We are currently in the design phase. I mean, we're paying engineering costs and those things to move this forward. At the budget time, we will have the whole full package put together with an estimated cost, so we can do a better job of the estimation. So
I tell you, I don't know if anybody's noticed it, but these sidewalks that we're putting in are getting used. Has anybody driven up and down 31 and seen the number of people that are out walking it now? It's amazing. So I think these sidewalks, no matter where we put them, are a great addition to a city and giving it more of a walkability factor. It's just been good to see 31 used. And I know this section along Jimmy Faulkner gets used a lot. I mean, there are people that drive to this location, they park at Providence, they walk up and down. So again, just another great addition.
There's no doubt the city has honestly moved forward in the past 9, 10 years of putting sidewalks in that we didn't have in the past. You know, one of the major steps that we took was requiring for contractors, developers, as they build neighborhoods, require them to put sidewalks in. And we started looking at the main thoroughfares where we could add sidewalks. First one we added, I'd say the very first one was the Trailblazer sidewalk coming up the hill. That was probably in 06, 08, somewhere that time. I think the next one was probably right there at School Road at Westminster Drive coming across. The one that followed there was Blakely Way, I would assume. And then we started the project on Jimmy Faulkner from the high school up to Audubon. This is another natural extension of that. Of course, 31 will have sidewalks on both sides. So yes, it is getting used. It is very good that we've done this. Very proud of the way the city is moving this to a walkable community, and it certainly adds to quality of life. Okay. Any other discussion on this item? I'd like to have a motion to suspend the rules with this item because it does include a $93,000 contribution. Do I have that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules on Resolution 1195, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes. Do I have a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 1195, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to present Resolution 1203, 2022, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Renfro Hibbets and Company, Inc. for street restriping on Spanish Main. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this resolution would authorize you to execute a contract with Renfro Herberts and Company, Inc. for restriping of Spanish Main in the city of Spanish Fort. A copy of the proposal is attached as Exhibit 1, subject to any changes deemed necessary by the mayor. The total amount of the proposal is $19,306.62.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council? I think we've all seen Spanish Main is due for a little upkeep in Brushland. We did budget this item during our budget process to do this project, so I'd love to go ahead and move it forward. In the past, we've always tied it into our repaving contracts, but we have found that we can get a better bang for our buck reaching out to these contractors individually on the striping, so hence we want to go ahead and bring this forward rather than waiting towards the end of the year for repaving. Any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 1203-2022, subject to any changes deemed necessary by the mayor.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to introduce Resolution 1204, 2022, a resolution accepting certain streets for maintenance. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is a resolution accepting the maintenance for certain streets in Oaks of Cameron subdivision in accordance with the plat recorded at slide number 2812E in the probate record of Baldwin County, Alabama. A copy of the plat of the subdivision is attached as Exhibit 1. Attached as Exhibit 2 is a letter from the engineering firm stating that the streets and drainage have been constructed in accordance with the approved construction plans. Attached as Exhibit 3 is a form bond in the amount of $158,744.20 as a maintenance bond for a term of 2 years from the date of City Council acceptance of the streets for maintenance. And then attached as Exhibit 4 is a cost estimate based on the roadway and drainage improvements and the calculation for determining the amount of the bond, which is 40% of that amount.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? This is being introduced and will be on your February 7th agenda. Moving to Resolution 1205, 2022, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter in an agreement for grading and/or landscaping of right-of-ways. Mr. Connor?
This is a proposed resolution that would authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with the Alabama Department of Transportation for a grading and landscaping agreement for the purpose of installing wayfinding signs along U.S. Highway 31 and 181 for the purpose of identifying key destinations in the city, such as the Spanish Fort Community Center, Spanish Fort Public Library, Spanish Fort Senior Center, Spirit Park, Spanish Fort Elementary School and Ball Fields, Spanish Fort High School, Spanish Fort Middle School, and Integrity Park. A copy of the landscape and grading agreement is attached as Exhibit 1, subject to any changes deemed necessary by the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion on this item? I think most of you know what the design of these things is going to look a lot like our Welcome to the City of Spanish Fort signs. And it really will, I think, dress up the right-of-ways and it gives better direction to people where the places are, like the high school, the middle school, the parks, the library, senior center, all those good kind of things that are designated now, but these will certainly step up what we're doing out there. Any further discussion? This also is being introduced tonight and will be on your February 7th agenda. I'd like to introduce a resolution 1206, 2022, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for cooperative maintenance and public right-of-ways. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is a second agreement that is basically associated with the previous resolution and agreement that the City Council just approved. The Alabama Department of Transportation does this in a two-step process, the first agreement being landscaping and grading, the second being an agreement covering the maintenance and installation of those signs once they're in place. Again, this would be for along U.S. Highway 31 and 181 for wayfinding signs and identification of those areas and locations and facilities that I mentioned in the previous resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion? As David has mentioned, this is step 2 of ALDOT agreements to put the signs in place. They can't do it all in one. They have to have 2 different ones. So, this also will be on your February 7th agenda. Moving to Resolution 1207, 2022, a resolution vacating a portion of certain right-of-ways within the city of Spanish Fort. David?
Mayor, Alabama Code Section 23-4-2 and 23-4-20 authorizes a governmental entity to vacate certain unneeded or unmaintained rights-of-way in the event that they are no longer needed for public purposes. It also allows for property owners who own property adjacent to a right-of-way that is no longer needed for public purposes to request and by petition that the right-of-way or a portion thereof be vacated. Al Morgan, Deborah Morgan, Ray Downey, William C. Barnhill, Paula Barnhill, and Pamela Davis Green have requested that a portion of a certain unopened and unmaintained right-of-way be vacated adjacent to their property. A petition has been filed with the city requesting the vacation. Notice of the proposed vacation is being advertised in the Gulf Coast newspapers. This hearing on this request for vacation would be scheduled for the February 7 meeting, and this ordinance would, if adopted by the City Council, vacate any and all public rights, including public rights required by prescription in this right-of-way. In accordance with state law, all utility companies having utility provisions or equipment or facilities in that area would be allowed to continue to maintain and use the right-of-way for that purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council? This is being introduced tonight, and we'll have a public hearing on this item February 7th, 2022, to hear any comments in opposition to or in favor of the proposed resolution. Mr. Connor, I believe you have one item that we need to add to the agenda tonight.
Yes, Mayor. This item is action related to a proposed settlement with Endo in that certain lawsuit captioned State of Alabama versus Purdue Pharma LP et al., civil action number 03 CV 2019-901174, and that's in the Alabama Circuit Court of Montgomery County, and it's been referred to as the Alabama AG action. As you know, the city has engaged counsel to file opioid claims related to the opioid litigation that's ongoing in this country, in the multi-district litigation, and also in other litigation and other cases in courts. At this point in time, the state has worked out an agreement, a proposed settlement with Endo, which is one of those parties in that litigation. That is conditioned upon a certain number of entities, local government entities, signing and executing the proposed settlement agreement and sign-on agreement. This recommendation would be to address the city's portion of that proposed settlement, and the recommendation would be, number one, to approve the proposed settlement agreement with Endo in connection with that certain case, captioned State of Alabama versus Purdue Pharma LP, civil action number 03 CV 2019-901174, Alabama Circuit Court, Montgomery County, on the condition that the City of Spanish Fort's election and approval to participate in the Endo settlement agreement is specifically conditioned on the City of Spanish Fort receiving the full amount of its settlement allocation listed under Exhibit B of the sign-on without offset or payment to any other parties. And number two, to authorize the mayor, staff, and the city's attorneys to execute any documents deemed necessary, to take any action and all actions deemed necessary to effect the proposed settlement with Endo. Mayor, I would recommend that we suspend the rules for immediate consideration if you desire to move forward with this prior to taking action.
Thank you, Ms. Connor. Any discussion from the council?
Yeah, I don't understand how this motion should appear. Is this, how should this motion be introduced?
First, it would be a motion to suspend the rules for immediate
Right.
consideration. And then second, you can make a motion to approve the staff recommendation as stated by council.
Okay.
Approve the recommendation as stated by council. And I have that in writing for purposes of the minutes. Or if you want to read that, you can right there, if you want to read it in its entirety under recommendation. JR, okay? Yes, yeah, it's fine. If you would like to read it in whole, you can read that, or you can adopt the recommendation.
Okay,
Either way, I can't write that fast.
Any further discussion? Do I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, I have a motion to adopt the motion that JR is about to give us.
Make a motion to approve the recommendation stated by council for the Endo settlement agreement.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, the motion is approved. Any other business coming before the council tonight? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.